There are a lot of vegan documentaries out there. You've been in several of them, and a lot of influencers who tout the vegan diet. And most of them are Caucasian. And so it can be, apparently, I watched The Invisible Vegan, which is one of the documentaries you're in, which is different because it is produced by, and pretty much, I think everybody in it is a person of color, mostly African Americans. And they opened my eyes to the fact, I didn't know this, being a white person and just often in my own bubble, and much to my embarrassment, I was kind of embarrassed, is that we need to work better at bringing people in, and that a lot of times telling people, well, you should eat this, plants, yay, it's so easy and delicious. That comes off as sort of me being a white person telling people what to do, which is what white people do a lot of around the world. So can you give me your perspective on that and some advice for people like me?
Sure. And let me kind of personalize it as a man. That men have a tendency to mansplain. That when we want to talk to women, we tend to want to explain to you guys how things should be, right? As opposed to listening to you and talking to you and getting your perspective. And I think most women would tell you, why don't you shut up and listen to us? Instead of coming in and telling us as a man how it should be, why don't you ask us our opinion? Why don't you ask us for our perspective as women? Why don't you listen to what we have to say and get our perspective and viewpoint, and you might learn something. Well, it's a similar dynamic in terms of white versus person of color, that it's understanding that as people of color, we have a unique perspective on things, and that our experience is different, and our perspective is different, and it's very rich, and it's unique, and we have a lot to offer. And so rather than having a paternalistic approach to, well, let us tell you how to be vegan or let us bring you up to speed, actually say, tell us what you think. Tell us what your viewpoint is. Tell us what your thoughts are. Let's hear your take on this plant-based lifestyle. Don't assume that we have no experience with being plant-based, because there's actually a very long and very rich and very deep history of plant-based lifestyle within the African-American community and other communities as well. One big thing is that within the white community, a major impetus for becoming vegan has to do with animal rights. Whereas from the African-American perspective, health is often a major driver. And that's not to say that animal rights isn't important, but health tends to be more of a driver. And I've seen sometimes that some white vegans will judge African-Americans for not having more of a animal rights viewpoint, as though to say, like, well, you're less moral because you're not as concerned about the animals. And David Carter, who styles himself as a 300-pound vegan, says something that I have never forgotten, and I love it. He says, animals don't care why you stop eating them as long as you stop. and that's the bottom line. And the point is that as long as we all get to the same place, it really kind of doesn't matter what path we take. From my standpoint, I actually think that the foundation of why we do what we do has to be health. And I'll tell you why. Because I have seen this sort of almost masochistic impulse in veganism that says, well, I'm vegan for the animals, meaning that I'm willing to sacrifice my health because I love animals so much. Well, that sounds very noble and very, wonderful. But quite frankly, I can't go to some mother with, 3 children and tell her, I expect you to sacrifice the health of your children to save, a family of ducks or, some chickens.
Mhm.
But what I can tell her is, it is better for you and your children if you don't eat these animals. That, they will be healthier. You will be healthier. And you'll save these animals. So if they understand that it is healthier for you, it is better for the animals, and it's better for the planet, it all makes sense. So you don't have to be a masochist. You don't have to sacrifice your health because it all works.
Well, that doesn't help anybody. If you're sick and you're sacrificing, you're not going to attract.
Nobody. And ultimately, you're trading one kind of misery and hurt for another. If I'm not hurting animals, but I'm hurting myself, what good is that? You feel me?
Yeah.
So, but it's totally unnecessary, because it's not necessary for me to hurt myself to save animals. I'm helping myself, and I'm helping the animal, and I'm helping the planet. That's the beauty of it. So it's all good.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And I think it's always a good reminder for us to be curious instead of tell people what we think. It's just always better. And I also do think that when people become vegan for whatever way, unless it's to lose weight, I don't think that's a very, to look better. I don't think that's as powerful. But when you see the health benefits, you often, your heart opens, this happened to me, and you become more compassionate. They go hand in hand.